Hello, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Let's play chess. We're going to start with 5 minutes per game today. Here we go. Time for a break. Let's take a bit of a break here. Okay. Okay. It looks like that I'm gonna review this game I won as black. Uh, my opponent, Mokulate Kids. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that correctly. So, Mokulate Kids, maybe. Mokulate Kids, maybe in another language it's a D instead of a T. But he's also pretty much drinking tea, as far as I can tell. This was a good game. You know, his accuracy level was low according to computer, and for a win, this was low for me too. But I think I can make good out of a review here. So let's go over this game. English opening. I responded symmetrically, still within the English opening, and then one way for black to play is e5, and as this is sometimes called the reverse Sicilian. It's like the Sicilian, except normally as black we're playing the Sicilian, and this is like if black had an extra move. I've heard it called the Sicilian on steroids. I'm not sure that's politically correct, but it's like an improved version of the Sicilian. Sometimes no, it's because it just doesn't. It doesn't. They don't equate like that. I don't think. At least I'm not sure. So knight to c6, and the Fiend Shadowed Bishop on the long diagonal from h1 to a8. Knight f6, just standard developing moves and control of the center. There's nothing wrong with knight f6, and then e3. You might see that and think it's a little bit passive. And I'm not. I don't know because I wouldn't necessarily say that because e4 blocks in this wonderful bishop. This is the most powerful piece on the board right now. So e4 would be to take away that wonderful gift, but e3 still makes room for a potential knight to e2 and having this symbiotic defensive relationship here with the other knight. If the queen is in a good way to be coming to the king side, then that's on. Although, frankly, that's probably not on because of the black's knight at f6, and queen to f3 just looks awkward, possibly a little bit losing in tempos of initiative. This is something I've been pushing. The clock is the clock, and initiative is measured in tempos. Is if we say time, it's confusing. Are we talking about the time on the clock or the time on the board? So, queen to f3, I think black can work a way to have that be at white's disadvantage by earning maybe some tempos of initiative. Maybe play d6 followed by bishop g4, and the queen has to move just to stay alive. In fact, she might be almost pretty close to trapped there. So yeah, queen f3 is off. But fortunately for white, there's space on the queen side where the queen might be better placed. d6. So if this was possibly passive, then so possibly was also d6. It's better passive because on d5, black ends up losing a pawn. 2 defenders, 3 attackers kind of situation. Knight to e2, pawn to h5. We're doing this because against these fiend shadow structures, the h pawns are sometimes very helpful. It all, of course, always depends on the nuances and specifics of the position. But I found that pawn to h5 is going to contest after pawn to h4, so as to attack both. So as to both attack pawn at g3 and threaten h3 with an attack against the fiend shadow bishop on g2. So I felt pawn to h5 was a good move here for black. Castle's kingside makes a lot of sense. That's what white has been aiming for. Castling is that which white for which white has been aiming. So I'll continue with the attacking side of things. Attacking as black, I'll take it. That's not so bad. And f4 looks like it's razzle dazzle. I would warn against f4. Because black will want to pry open white's king side on the king side. When f4 is played, this pawn can no longer be used to capture back on g3 after f takes g3 and h takes g3. H takes g3, then f takes g3. Sorry, h takes g3, then f takes g3, and this would be great for white to have not an open or even a semi-open file, and the rook on f1 is very powerful. The h2 pawn still stops many attacks that black might be brewing. So I would say here this was not that this move was. I'm very critical of this move. But as a player, I'd love to see it because now I get to pry things open on black's king side. Knight f4, I made it reflexively, and then saw, I'm going to be eaten by the queen. But then I saw also that my that my bishop is supporting my knight, so it's not quite as bad a thing as I thought. Pawn to h3, we see, is the computer best move. Get that knight out of there. That makes a lot of sense. A slight weakening of black's kingside, but we've already done that, right? So better for white to get this knight out of this area near white's king. Black plays strong here with queen to h4, dangling the sacrifice of the knight, because after pawn takes h3, black will keep material in good standing with his own play by capturing on g3. And it's hard to find, well, then what's the move here for black? You would think maybe bishop to f3, and black loses. Well, for white. White would play bishop to f3. Black captures on h3 with this queen, and it looks like there just might be too much against all this air around white's king. Although according to Torch 4, according to Torch 4, white is not completely out yet, and sees knight at g to e4 as a saving move. probably true, and I would say black has a good edge due to all the force he has against white's king side. Not only that, but everything here is going in black's favor. There's a king with some air nearby. There are targets. There are targets. There are targets. You know, even on the queen, there are targets. So there's nothing against black's attack here. It's very strong. Queen takes g3, continuing the attack, and then sometimes white finds the right idea. I can't just sit here and let myself be attacked because they're frankly, to that idea, black does have the firepower. So initiating the idea of a counterattack, but I think maybe not in the correct way, and maybe also a move late. F takes e5, and the resource here for black is bishop takes g4, and we're threatening white's queen in a way that's difficult to respond. Maybe you give up the exchange, but then the threat just renews. So this attack is about to succeed for black. Again, I found the right move. I think it was the only right move by quite some distance, so good for me. And queen to h2 check. Black looks for a way to end this quickly, honestly. Torch indicates queen h4 check, then the forced move. Take a look at the top line here by Torch. King moves, queen comes in for another check, king back, and then the knight gets into things. When the knight enters, by way of a capture on e5, and we'll notice that now there are so many threats, too many threats for white to solve. The big ones being on d3, knight d3 check, and that forks white's king and queen, and they're all over. The threats are just overwhelming. Let's just say overwhelming threats or overwhelming attack. I consider this, at this point, this is just generally overwhelming attack. And in that way, bishop to e7 is a winning move as well, so I'm fine with it. I played it, and it worked out very well. Alright, so black is now up a full rook. Now granted, some of those overwhelming attacks with the knight moving to e4, or rather e5, and then getting this, fork, they might have been a little bit more direct, but I think black is going to win this game nonetheless. I have a mate in 7 now turned to a mate in 5 by black's move. That doesn't really do it for me because anyway, I put the rook back on h8 because I am going to have a fork against my king and rook at a8. We pressure the knight so that he has to take it on that tempo and get this deal done. Black is still ahead by a lot of material. The bishops and the rooks offset, and then the pawns all offset, and black has 2 extra minor pieces. Fortunately so, because I ended up sort of, not yet, I guess. At some point, I gave up some material that really didn't need to be given up. Let's see. I'd say after here on d4. I'm following Torch here. Captures on d4, and now black should play bishop to h4. Then aim to play g5, creating this bond between pawn and bishop. and also playing f5, creating the bond between pawn and bishop of the other square color. And that's it. I mean, positionally speaking, this is dynamite. This would be dynamite. I feel like showing that. So let's show that as black to move would play to here. And engine response. And then we play G5, engine response, F5, and this is too much for white to handle all at once. Okay. So that was that way. And this, we go back to the same position. I made some inaccuracies. It cost me my bishop on e1. Fortunately, for me, I had enough material to continue on. And here, I'm ready to give up knight and bishop both to take away white's rook. And I feel that with my rook still standing, I'll have extra pawns, and that should be plenty. A good simplification here. By playing the move from a8 to c8, the attack on the pawn is undesirable. White will respond either by ignoring that fact and losing an extra pawn. There's really bad choices for white all around here, so not really criticism of that, but just to show the tactic. The king moves away and the pawn is lost, the pawn is protected, and black will have a way to eventually gather the pawn and white's bishop in exchange for his rook. This is pretty much shown in the game, so I'll show from here. Bishop to d4 is a reasonable try, but the pin arrives, and then so too does the... I don't like that metaphor, so I'm not going to say that. The pin arrives, and after liquidating, it's completely won king and pawn endgame for black. Alright, let's take a look here. It's a good game. I love it. All right, I'm gonna call it, my friends. Practically speaking, I'll probably be on later today, but for this session, that's it. So, thank you for watching. Thank you, Gravitrons. I'm more gravity. Have a great night.